Oh God. We are celebrating today because I have officially been self-employed for the past 8 years, which is kind of crazy to think about that 21-year-old Tara had the guts and the courage to start her own business with no experience, no education, no idea what she was doing, and somehow we ended up here. And while reflecting on my entrepreneurial journey, I realized there were a lot of mistakes, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of things I wish I could go back and tell that younger version of me. But unfortunately, I do not have a time machine. So I thought it'd be more helpful to share those lessons and mistakes with you. So that way, hopefully you don't make the same ones that I did and can grow your small business a lot faster, bigger, and better. So if that's what you want to see, go ahead and get cozy, maybe make yourself a cup of tea, which mine now has confetti in it, like my whole office does. Anyways, let's dive into lesson number 1. The very first thing I would go back and tell my younger self, as well as any small business owner, would be to diversify your income streams. As the old saying goes, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. The same is true for your business. You don't want all of your revenue dependent on one product, one offer, or one client. Because if that were to ever disappear, there goes your entire business, which is exactly what happened to me. My first business, I started out in network marketing with a company called Beachbody. The problem was it was on a subscription basis. So a client would buy a subscription for a year for $160, but I would only get $50 of that per client per year, meaning I constantly had to be bringing new people into my group coaching, which brought on a lot of stress, a lot of responsibility, and eventually burnout, which led to me burning that business down entirely and restarting again on my own with Magically Tara Simone LLC. But if I would have known back then to start creating digital products like ebooks or courses or any of the other passive product ideas I share in this video here, which by the way, I would highly recommend watching after you get done with this one. But if I would have done that then, I probably wouldn't have been as stressed, as burnt out, and as resentful of my business. So if you don't take anything else from this video, at least do this one thing in your own business. Start creating additional income streams so that way you have a little bit more sustainability in your income as well as spaciousness in your schedule, especially if you dive into some of the passive products that I mentioned over in this video. Speaking of burnout, the second thing I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, as well as every other small business owner out there, is to set business hours and boundaries. I know you are super passionate about your work and could do it all day long, but eventually you need to sleep and eat and take care of household chores and reconnect with your partner in the outside world. So I have found it super helpful to set strict business hours for myself as if I was a brick and mortar store that had an open and closing time. So every day I don't start work until 9 p.m., 9 a.m., and every evening I end at 4:30. And I create a little ritual out of it. I blow out my candle, I close the laptop, I turn off the lights, and I say goodnight to my business so that way I can go back to being the wife and dog mom and daughter and friend and all the other roles that I play in my life. I've also found it super helpful as well to have certain boundaries like a social media free day every week. So that way I'm completely disconnected from my work and my clients and can be fully invested in my relationships and the other things that I like to do outside of my work. So a little bit of inner work for you today. Let me know down in the comments what your business hours are going to be and also 3 boundaries that you are going to set so that way you can have a bit more of work and life separation and a hell of a lot more balance so that way you don't burn out. While we're on the topic of work-life separation, I want you to know that it is totally normal if your friends and family don't get it. They're not going to understand exactly what it is that you do in your business. They're not going to believe in your dreams as much as you do. And they may even be doubters and naysayers in your circle. And the good news is, it is not your responsibility to help them understand or prove yourself to them. Instead, focus your time and energy on your ideal clients, because most likely it's not that aunt that keeps stalking you on social media that you are marketing to. So instead of worrying about them, I find it might be best to just block them entirely. I know it's kind of controversial, do what's best for you always, but I know in my own business, it held me back for so long, worrying how people from real life were going to perceive every single post, that it actually prevented me from being authentic and marketing to my ideal clients, which hurt my business in the long run. So like I said, if you need to, block your family on social media, or feel free to steal this phrase I probably say a million times every single Thanksgiving when somebody asks,
"So how's your little business going?"
AKA the little business that I've been running for 8 years and paying all my bills. Instead of getting sassy with them, I just say, thanks for asking, but I prefer to keep my personal and professional life separate. That usually ends the conversation right there and prevents me from trying to explain my entire business model from them, getting unsolicited advice that has nothing to do with my industry, or filling me with self-doubt by the end of it. So feel free to steal that phrase, and remember, it's okay if your friends and family don't get it, because there are tons of people out there who do. Which takes us into the next thing I wish I could tell every single small business owner. Find your community. And I'm not just talking about your ideal client or the audience that you want to market to. I'm talking about finding other small business owners who know what it's like, who are actively growing their business and can support you on the hard days, hype you back up, give you feedback on your work, actually feel like a partnership and someone there with you instead of doing it all on your own. Because I have been a solopreneur for the past 8 years. There are no other employees in Magically Tara Simone LLC. This is a one-woman show, and that can get really lonely. So I have found having a couple of business besties that I can text on the tough days, or when I have a question, or just want feedback on like which post graphic looks better. It has been so helpful with keeping me motivated and also talking me off the cliff when I feel like nothing is going right and I should just burn my business to the ground and get a 9-to-5. I know we have all been there, and having support is crucial in long-term success. So this is your sign to scour Facebook events or your local forum to see if there's a small business meeting group near you, or find a virtual community like the one I've created inside of Business Besties. This is a daily Telegram group chat where we set goals every single week, ask each other for feedback and different questions, celebrate each other's wins, and then I drop a couple of practical as well as energetic hacks in there every single week. So if you're looking for a community like that, feel free to scan this QR code for more information about Business Besties, or click the link down in the description. Either way though, I want you to find at least one person who knows what it's like to grow their business, so that way you have someone to turn to and support you and also celebrate your wins with. Now this next one is mostly for my millennials and Gen Zers, or if you're like me, born in 1996, a zillennial. But I want to remind you that there's more to marketing than just social media. When I first started out in 2017, Instagram was the only way I got the word out about my business. And it worked great. Back then, it was the place to be if you were selling something, because hardly anybody was. It was still a social media app. These days though, everybody is trying to get you to buy something, and those apps are dwindling. So if you are only using social media to market your business, maybe it's time to change things up. Have you looked into Pinterest or YouTube, which by the way are not social media. They're actually search engines that use SEO, meaning people can find your work years later, unlike the Instagram algorithm that only lasts for 24 hours. Or have you looked into blogging, email marketing, good old-fashioned flyers around town, maybe a radio ad or a newspaper ad if people still read those. And don't forget the power of good old-fashioned referrals. There are so many ways to get the word out about your business that don't have to be on any of the apps. And I have found it so much better for my mental health, not relying solely on Instagram to market my business, because when the algorithm tanks or a post doesn't do well, I noticed my mood would instantly go down and the self-doubt would creep up on me. So if the same is happening to you, let's find some new ways to start marketing your business. And you can start right now. Comment below what it is that you do. Feel free to drop your link, brag about your work for a second, and who knows, maybe it'll lead to your next client. Speaking of social media, when's the last time you signed off for the day and went and had fun in the real world? Maybe go for a hike with your partner or indulge in one of your favorite cozy hobbies. Literally anything outside of the internet bubble. I had to learn this the hard way in my business and got a big slap in the face when I heard this quote in an audiobook. But if your identity is your work, then you cease to exist when you cease to work. Which I don't think you want to be like a disembodied voice that doesn't exist if you're not sitting at your desk. And it is so helpful for your creativity, your mental well-being, and also your business to have an outlet and a life outside of your work. It provides so much stress relief, so much inspiration, and so many other benefits you wouldn't even realize until you actually do it. And trust me, I get it. As a fellow introvert, I'd rather cozy up at home all day and not talk to the outside world or leave the house. But this last year, my therapist challenged me to get out of the house once a week and socialize with the outside world. And I'm gonna say, she was right. It has done wonders for my mental health. So if you feel like you're a little hermit hiding at home, always hustling away on your business, this is your sign to get out into the world. Explore your town, join a group discussion or a book club, maybe an intramural sports league, or at the very least, find a cozy hobby that you can enjoy instead of scrolling on social media or typing away at your laptop all the time. This next one is gonna get real vulnerable and real honest. Stay true to your values, which I definitely didn't do when I started my first business. Like I said, it was in network marketing, and while I absolutely loved the company and the workouts, there were a lot of shady marketing and business practices that I didn't realize at the time were bad. Again, I was 20 years old, it was my first business, I didn't really know that much, and these successful mentors that were way ahead of me said this is how they grew their business. So I did the same, and I ignored that little part inside of me saying,
Tara, this doesn't feel good. This is icky. This is sleazy.
because I thought that was just my own self-doubt and my imposter syndrome. But this tip is your permission slip to listen to your intuition. If you hear a tip on a YouTube video like this one that doesn't feel right for you, that doesn't resonate, feel free not to do it. If you have a coach or a mentor tell you this is the only way to succeed and you have to do it this way, but it doesn't feel true to you, maybe it's time to find a new coach or mentor. Or if you're reading a book and you just get an off vibe, feel free to close it and throw it across the room for dramatic effect. Just because somebody saw success growing their business one way doesn't mean that it is the only way. And I believe that when you are in tune with your intuition, trusting the divine along your path, and staying in integrity, you will always be most successful. So throw out the rule book, unfollow accounts that you don't really vibe with, do whatever you need to do to stay true to your own values. Because at the end of the day, you know what's best for you and your business. We've made it to the last thing I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, as well as every other small business owner. But before we dive into this one, which you probably don't want to hear, make sure to like this video if you learned something new. And if you feel like you learned 2 new things, consider subscribing so that way you never miss another cozy business tip. Okay, on to this one, which is going to be a little bit hard to swallow, but you are going to fail. At some point in your entrepreneurial journey, there's going to be a complete flop, whether it's a launch, whether it's a product, whether it's a social media post. There are going to be times where you put all of your heart and energy and effort into something, and you're not going to see a return on that investment. For me, this moment happened back in 2021 when I finally realized that my previous business model with network marketing wasn't going to work for me anymore. I wasn't passionate about it anymore. I was really resentful and burnt out, and I needed to start again. So I quit. I formed my own business, Magically Tara Simone LLC, and I decided that I was going to coach my own clients. In my first year, I signed one single client, stuck around for 2 months, loved the work we were doing together, couldn't afford it anymore, and I felt like a complete failure. Like, what the hell was I doing? Because like I said, my first business was so successful almost instantly, And I had all of this doubt in my mind that I made a big mistake and this wasn't the path that the universe was leading me down, and I somehow was this massive failure and should just go get a 9-to-5 job and give up on my dreams entirely. But I'm happy to say that I didn't. Maybe it's delusion, maybe it's resilience, but here I am 4 years later with dozens of clients that I serve every single month, all of my bills paid, money left over for my cozy hobbies and my passions. My wife and I bought this beautiful little home in Vermont. We adopted a dog. Like, life is so good, and my business is, sorry, I'm about to cry. My business is bigger and better than I could have ever imagined back in 2021 when I felt like a complete failure. And again, I wanted to share this with you because this is part of the journey. You know, it's an emotional roller coaster up and down, and sometimes you're gonna feel down on that pit for a really long time. But if you keep pushing, if you keep believing in yourself, if you keep showing up, if you get a little bit of support, which I definitely needed at that time, eventually you're going to get where you're meant to be. I recently told one of my friends that you wouldn't be given this dream unless you were capable of making it reality. So if you have watched all the way to the end of this video, I would say you're pretty serious about your dream, about your business. And that means you're capable of creating whatever it is on your vision board, whatever that desire is in your heart. I believe in you. Hopefully you believe in you. And I would love to hear more about what it is that you do. So if you haven't commented below yet, tell me a little bit more about you and your business. Make sure to subscribe to see more videos like this where I hopefully won't cry. And if you want to keep hanging out with me here on YouTube right now, I think you'll enjoy this one next.